Oh, hi there. You scared the crap out of me. So I actually wanted to take some time to talk to you today about my favorite app, Amino. That's right. This video is sponsored by Amino, an ever-expanding network of communities, including D&D. They have lots of fun stuff to do like polls, quizzes, and chat rooms full of really friendly people. Go check it out. These guys work really hard to keep their community as interesting as possible, and deserve some support. I'll be hanging out in the official D&D chat room today if you guys want to check in after the video and tell me how bad it was. Cantrips are the basic spells that every caster, no matter how stupid, is familiar with. Most of them have solid uses and more than half of them do damage. I ran through every single one and picked out 5 of the shittiest fucking spells and 5 of the most useful spells. Damaging cantrips are obviously useful for cold-blooded murder, but I made a list from top to bottom and picked the worst and best spells for combat. The best combat spell, in my humble opinion, is SHILLELAGH. It takes a bonus action to cast and lasts without concentration for a minute. The reason it's the best is because it gives you a magic weapon, which overcomes pretty much all damage reduction, and allows you to add your spellcasting modifier to your damage. This is the only cantrip that will never do less than 4 damage. And the worst is Vicious Mockery, by a fucking landslide. It's the only cantrip that does 1d4 damage, which is terrible, but compensates by giving the target disadvantage. The reason it's dog shit is because it's basically just a worse version of Frostbite, which has an almost identical effect but does 1d6 damage. Now on to my actual list. Starting with one of the worst is Blade Ward. You extend your hand and trace a sigil of warding in the air. Until the end of your next turn, you have resistance against bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage dealt by weapon attacks. So imagine you're a wizard in close quarters combat with a creature who has swords for teeth. Every 6 seconds, it's trying very hard to kill and eat you with those teeth. All you have in your arsenal are 2 cantrips, one that does damage and one that protects you from 1 attack. You're gonna fucking kill it! You're not Kakuna from Pokemon. Nobody even uses defensive abilities anyway. Why would you invest a full turn to protect yourself from 1 round of incoming attacks? It's stupid, but in its defense, you could say, well, what if there's one big flurry of attacks and I don't want massive damage? I literally can't imagine a scenario where you're about to take one big-ass hit and you take the time to cast Blade Ward instead of doing anything else. And do you know what's gonna happen the next round? The same thing. Whatever is slicing you up is gonna keep doing it. Don't invest in this sigil, it sucks. Next down the line is Spare the Dying. You touch a living creature that has 0 hit points. The creature becomes stable. This spell has no effect on undead or constructs. I get why you'd use it, and it's not absolutely terrible. I think the main thing that you could use this for is when an enemy is downed and you don't want them to die, but not wake up either. But hey, instead of learning it thinking, I'll save my friends, maybe pick any other healing spell. The reason the cantrip really sucks is because the target stays unconscious and doesn't really heal at all. When receiving any magical healing, a downed creature is no longer unconscious and can rejoin the fight. Go and buy a damn potion and slap it down a guy's throat. Don't touch his no-nos to stop the bleeding. But you might say, we ran out of potions and spell slots. Don't plan for failure, you walnut. If you're in this situation, it's your own stupid fault. Also, a healer's kit does the exact same thing. And take the healer feat, that shit's broken. Thirdly is Guidance. You touch one willing creature. Once before the spell ends, the target can roll a d4 and add the number rolled to one ability check of its choice. This is the most boring fucking spell, and a d4 should basically never be rolled for anything but magic missile, a thrown dagger, or putting them outside the bathroom door to be used as caltrips for people you don't like. The reason it isn't number 1 or 2 is because even if it's bad, it can still be used in rare situations like lockpicking, if you remember to cast it, which nobody does. Now number 1 and 2 are tied for me, and if I see a wizard cast either of them in my party, I'm going to climb onto the table and make a poopy on their character sheet. And these spells are Resistance and True Strike. Resistance. You touch one willing creature once before the spell ends. The target can roll a d4 and add the number rolled to one saving throw of its choice. True Strike. You point a finger at a target in range. Your magic grants a brief insight to the target's defenses. On your turn, you gain advantage on your first attack roll against the target, provided that this spell hasn't ended. I feel like my brain just deflated by giving either of these spells any thought at all. So to start, they both last not long and require concentration. Why the hell would you stop focusing on a better spell and give all your attention to a fucking d4 on one roll? Resistance is impossible to ever use because you should almost never be able to prepare for a saving throw. Traps are hidden, abilities that cause saves take one turn or are a passive, and poison is a secret. And True Strike looks appealing. I know we all like our advantage, but it's literally, in every sense of the word, a debuff. It takes a full turn to cast. Take a second to soak in what I just said. It takes a full turn to give yourself advantage on one attack. Why in all that is holy and unholy alike, across the 7 seas and the infinite cosmos of foresight, would anyone be stupid enough to do this? Just attack him twice, you stupid fuck! Let's run through both scenarios. In one reality, you attack your target twice. You roll a d20 for the first attack and get a 19. That hits. Then the next round, you attack them again and get a natural 20. That also hits. You hit twice. In the dumbfuck reality, where all your thinking power in your brain is devoted to thinking about one bowl of oatmeal, you cast True Strike first. That takes your turn. Then the next round, you roll twice. You get a 19 and you get a 20. That hits. You hit once. Now that I'm sad and angry, let's look at some good cantrips. I have to give honorable mentions to 2 great combat spells. Magie Stone is great for damage per cast, and Eldritch Blast is the most well-rounded spell for damage, range, and targets. But number 5 on my list is Druideraft. It isn't the greatest spell for everyday use, but each little ability can prove somewhat useful in certain situations. It's exclusive to druids, but taking the magic initiate feat for this cantrip and shillelagh is worth it depending on the type of game. Its ability to tell the coming weather is great for sailing, sparking plant growth is great for potion making, and the sensory effect creation is as useful as you are creative. Controlling fire is always useful, but a lot of cantrips give you some sort of pyromancy. I might be favoring this one a bit, because I couldn't find many cantrips that stand out. You could say that Produce Flame or Thaumaturgy are just as useful or more useful, it really depends. Number 4 is Minor Illusion. You create a sound or an image of an object within range that lasts for the duration. The illusion also ends if you dismiss it as an action or cast the spell again. If a creature uses its action to examine the sound or image, the creature can determine that it is an illusion with a successful... This spell has so many uses, I'm actually too stupid to deserve it. Firstly is the sound. You can choose the volume, a sound or voice, and what voice. This is so helpful for stealth and deceit, and it doesn't require verbal components. You can misdirect enemies with a distant rustle or literally put words in someone's mouth like a puppeteer. Second is the image. As a cantrip, it's not strong enough to do anything other than exist. The complexity of the image isn't defined, so you could pretty much create anything within a 5-foot cube. I'd give examples, but this video would be too long. Go comment with your clever brains. Number 3 is message. You point your finger toward a creature within range and whisper a message. The target, and only the target, hears this message and can reply in a whisper that only you can hear. This spell is amazing when dealing with NPCs, but it's also useful for scouting. My players use it constantly, and one of the best things about it is that you don't have to see the target if you know them. Number 2 is Prestidigitation. It's a lot like Druideraft, Thaumaturgy, and Minor Illusion, but it's the best one of the lot. Zbashu has a great video on it, but the gist of its power is that it's like 100 spells in one. You can create a sensory effect and create fire just like other spells, but there's a lot more to this one. You can clean or soil objects, chill, warm, or flavor an object, create a color, mark, or symbol, or generate a handheld object for a couple seconds. If I could cast this spell in real life, I'd create an egg and throw it at someone. The egg would disappear, leaving them confused. But in my hand, primed for throwing, another egg. I would torment them with non-permanent eggs until all they knew was the feeling of being covered in yolk. They would know no mercy from my pelting. The eggs would never stop. I would never stop. And the best spell is Mage Hand. If you make a caster get this spell, as an action, you can summon Master Hand from Smash Bros. For the next minute, you can use it as a ranged hand. Think about it, hands are the most useful things already. The hand doesn't require concentration, can't be damaged or destroyed, and can float 30 feet away from you. Say goodbye to every door trap, mimic problems, cages, and the toilet paper refill being too far away. The weight limit is 10 pounds, which is actually a really solid amount. That's as much as, this. They can't activate magic items, but they can pull levers, trigger doors, and do anything else non-magical. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this video, it's that two mages can combine their power and fire a floating bow. That's the coolest thing ever. I have one question. How did that get there?